pro-Israel Board of Deputies of British Jews sharing a platform with Regent's Park Masjid and Qari Asim. We've got on the phone Imran Shah, who is from the MPAC, spokesman for MPAC, who's going to hopefully shed some light on what's happening over here. Imran Shah, assalamu alaikum and welcome to Friday Night Live on Inspire FM.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Right, Imran, can you shed some light on what's happening here? Muslim imams, Muslim institutions trying to seek normalization of relationships with these pro-Zionist organizations. What's happening? What's wrong with that?
So in the last 12 months, we've done 2 campaigns on this issue. This one with the Board of Deputies and Qari Asim was the second one, and it's the most recent one. So with that, it was the Board of Deputies themselves organising an event. Again, like you said, about the genocide that's happening, the cleansing, and the re-education camps of Uyghur Muslims there in Xinjiang. Regent's Park Mosque was down to host it. They pulled out after a lot of public pressure. And now they said that we've actually pulled out because we've got lots of a very busy schedule. But the people that actually push for that are saying that actually no, they're just saying that to save face. But despite that, Qari Asim still was down to share a platform when it was rescheduled in the House of Commons. Now, our campaign is to ask why. Why, to bring that light of accountability on this issue, because for the vast majority of Muslims in the UK and indeed the world, liaising with those who actively support Israel and its occupation is a firm red line. And if we don't collectively say no publicly, then that line will continuously be crossed over and over, and it will become the new normal. And one of the key things I really want your listeners to understand is that when we talk about Zionism now, it's not just about the Palestinians anymore. Academics have long proven over the past 15 years that Islamophobia here in the West, including the UK, the biggest pushers are Zionists. And when you look at India, the rise of Hindu nationalism, not just in India but also here, Modi, BJP, they've had massive backing from Israel, especially on the escalation of Kashmir. So the issue of Zionism is not just a Palestinian-focused issue now. It's a direct problem for us here in the UK and around the world. And when we're talking about imams here in the UK breaking bread with Zionists, that context cannot be ignored either.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So thanks for that, Imran. You set the scene well. I mean, it does seem quite alarming, isn't it? Because initially you might give these individuals or some of these institutions the benefit of doubt that people are coming together to discuss a common interest, a common cause, and that is the oppression of the Uyghur Muslims. But hang on, when I looked at this, for a moment, it's almost the oppressor telling another oppressor, "You're an oppressor."
Exactly. Like they would never
alarming.
do the same event for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. They would never do that. And so for them to champion another genocide of Muslims, that is tactical. They're doing that on purpose in order to essentially split the loyalty of different causes. So if Uyghur Muslims, and to be honest, we as Muslims here in the UK, we've got to take ownership of this. We haven't quickly enough. And so if Uyghur Muslims feel that they're getting more reception by Zionists, that falls upon us as well. So that is a side point. But really what they're doing, they're taking advantage of that and be like, well, let's focus on this. It's in our allies' interest in the West to attack China. Fair enough. And let's use this as a means to be like, hey, we care about Muslims and Muslim issues, even though we support Israel. So work with us.
Right.
That's the soft power, the power play that they're trying to use.
It's a very cunning political game. I get that. But what's been the response from the likes of Qari Asim? I mean, I know Qari Asim personally. I've known him for ever since he came from Pakistan. I'm originally from Leeds myself. Has there been a response from Qari Asim in terms of why he feels it necessary to share a platform with an organization which is clearly pro-Israel and pro-Zionist?
So this is the thing, is that when we try to question imams on this issue, and Qari Asim's not the first one. They generally try not to respond, so there hasn't been a direct answering as to why. And when we asked his masjid, Makkah Masjid, as well as Minab, where he's a chairman of, they basically Makkah Masjid put up a tweet saying that we support this Qari Asim in doing this, and Minab basically retweeted it.
Imran, I'm pretty convinced that if you spoke to them to see whether they're actually in favor of Trump's latest obnoxious Palestinian deal of the century proposal, they'll probably also support Trump too in his audacious proposal on so-called Palestinian deal of the century.
Well, this is something that we should ask the likes of Qari Asim to be like, are you using that relationship to say like this? Do you demand are you demanding any action to be taken against condemning or against this deal directly? Like, you as Zionists, are you doing that? And if they're not using that relationship for that aim, then what we see then is just a one-way relationship in which they are being used as soft propaganda for Israel.
Absolutely, because I think let's be fair to Qari Asim. He's not here to defend himself, right? And I know you've reached out and they haven't been forthcoming in terms of giving a response to it. But there may be a counter argument that look, we're using that platform to further a conversation on Israel's stance towards the Palestinians. Do you actually buy that at all?
I don't, because when we looked at the previous campaign, I'll tell you what happened with the previous campaign. You had Imam Musharraf Hussain from Karima Institute. You had
this is the visit to Israel, right?
Yeah, so these imams visited Jerusalem in particular. So Imam Ghulam Rabbani, he's the founder of Faizan Islam. He's also spokesperson for Jamaat al-Sunnah. And Sheikh Mohammed Asra, who's an imam from Bradford. So they went on a trip for Jerusalem, and they met individuals who they said at the time didn't know that they were Israeli lobbyists. So a very infamous organization called the AJC, American Jewish Congress.
I don't buy it for a moment.
Yeah, so I mean that's what they said initially. A few weeks later, a tweet came out by the Israeli embassy in the UK stated that their people escorted the imams around Jerusalem. Now that's cast-iron proof that they are being used by a state.
Absolutely.
The Israeli state in particular. For propaganda for the state.
Absolutely, I don't buy it at all. Ignorance is not an excuse here to being politically used, and that's my point here. It's very clear where potentially the pressure of normalization here is coming from, right? I mean, this is like a government sponsored almost initiative. A lot of these are, right. So it's very clear what the government agenda is and where the pressure is coming from. I mean, do you agree, Imran?
Yeah, I mean, there's two key facts from this that I found particularly interesting. One of the imams started to doubt the effectiveness of BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Now, we know BDS is effective because it worked in South Africa. The idea is to make the occupation not profitable. Like, you can spin bad politics, but when the economics is bad, you can't spin that at all. That has real impacts on the ground. And that's why the Israeli lobby is trying so hard to ban it in the UK, in the US, and across Europe. It's actually in the Tory manifesto in the recent election to ban it in the UK. So the Imam gave no reason as to why he doubted it, but this is something that...
Which Imam was this supporting the campaign against BDS?
So he hasn't supported the campaign against BDS. He just said he had doubts as to whether it's effective. Right. Sheikh Mohammed Asra. The second fact is that he was a replacement for another imam to go on that trip, and that imam was Imam Qari Asim. So you have there's something much more deeper here than just simply random sort of trips. This is a consistent
Imran, very quickly, we're unfortunately running out of time. What about the private one-to-one nasiha? Some of my listeners might be listening to us, right? And they may be thinking, look, well, what's all this expose? What's this discussing this in the public domain? What about the one-to-one private nasiha? Have you gone down that route to give this nasiha to these individuals?
So we only go down the public route when we know other people have talked to them privately.
Right.
And we know that's the case when it came to these imams and also when it came to Qari Asim. So with the trip in Jerusalem, that happened already, so the damage has been done. So for us to assert that red line publicly, we had to essentially make it public. And for Qari Asim, there's been many people around him saying that this is not good. And the thing is that the public accountability is critical here, because what we have here is a religious leadership that is so used to doing whatever they want, whenever they want to do it. And so when it comes to public accountability, they treat it with contempt. They don't even deal with it. And this is maddening, because we live in a society where public bodies, public representatives are held to account as a normal, if not encouraged. If something is wrong with your NHS or your local council, you'll be emboldened to be like, no, I need to at least speak out. Yet when it comes to our religious leadership, we kind of give them a special status. And what that does, to really bring it home, what that does, it creates a culture where these imams are more answerable to Zionists than they are to us. And is that what we want? We want imams to be of that shape and of that ilk? Of course not. So things have to change.
Right. Last quick question, Imran. Is it political naivety on behalf of, whether it's the Regent's Park Masjid, London Central Masjid, or Qari Asim? Is it political naivety? Do you think that they fail to realize that they've been political pawns and being used, or is there ulterior motives there? Is it well paid? Is it government affording them certain I don't know, status and certain I don't know, benefits? Where's the pressure of normalization coming from, do you think?
I do think that some of these imams are naive. They rightly have a sort of focus on trying to bring communities together, and I think that is leveraged. I don't know to how deep, where they actually are collaborating and using it for their own self-interest. When it comes to Regent's Park Mosque, which is interesting, because a lot of their funding comes from Saudi, and we also know that Saudi has been pushing very hard to normalize relationships with Israel. So there's that element of it, but there's also the element of from Hamza Yusuf and UAE and MBZ, there has been meetings between Qari Asim and the quote-unquote Sufis. Some people call them Sufis, some people will not. There has been those conversations there. So there is this network of, we need to normalize this geopolitical network of, we need to normalize relationships with Israel, and that's impacting our communities here.
Okay, Imran Shah from MPAC, spokesman for MPAC, thank you very much for joining us this evening and shedding light on this particular issue. Thank you very much, Imran.
Thank you.